5 on your side at 10 starts now.
Showers and some rumbles of thunder. Why some of the storms may produce downpours.
Boots on the ground in the disaster zone.
My seniors and those that are most vulnerable are my concern.
Tonight, the recovery efforts ramping up in North St. Louis. An armed car criminal caught on camera.
It was terrifying, to be honest.
Tonight, new charges in connection to a string of car break-ins, including one with tragic consequences. We start tonight at 10 with the weather impact forecast. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are moving into the bi-state overnight, kicking off what could be another wet weekend. Good evening, I'm Mike Bush. Kelly Jackson has the night off. Let's get straight over to Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell with the timing and the impact of the rain.
Well, some of us seeing that rain right now, especially south of St. Louis. In the metro, it's been pretty spotty, pretty light. Things moving along just fine. Out at Lambert this evening. Down to our south, some pretty good-sized thunderstorms coming out of Arkansas through the Boot Heel into southeastern portions of Missouri. Those are the ones we're watching. They are not severe, but they are producing some downpours here. All that we have in the metro area has been pretty light and spotty showers, similar to what we saw around lunchtime today. What once was some stronger activity has fizzled as it's come towards the metro. This, too, shall fizzle as it's heading closer towards St. Louis, but more of this will make it in and likely gets into Jefferson County and into Monroe County here. We'll take it to Park Hills about 10:30, St. Genevieve about 10:52, and into Waterloo at 11:29. It won't be severe, but you may get some rumbles of thunder. And yes, Beth shared this photo on the 5 on Your Side Weather Watchers Facebook group. Scary looking clouds, but not anything severe with that. Tomorrow out the door, we do expect showers to be in the area. There may be a few downpours at times tomorrow morning and again during the mid to late afternoon. We'll start the day out around 70 and tomorrow around 80. More on the weekend rain chances, Mike, in just a few minutes.
And Scott, Monday will mark 1 month since the devastating EF3 tornado ripped through St. Louis. Since that time, there's been an outpouring of support to help survivors get back on their feet. 5 on Your Side's Brent Solomon is live in Midtown with the effort local organizers say can't stop now. Brent?
Mike, this is a marathon, and as we see with any race, all of the energy kickstarts right at the very beginning. But what happens weeks later, especially when you realize the race you're running is far from over?
When the storm actually happened, I literally stood at the end of the block like, where do we start?
It's why 10th Ward Committee woman Yolanda Yogi Yancey is relieved to see the boots on the ground efforts meeting storm survivors where they are.
There's a greater need now than even a month ago.
So many still dealing with damage. Others lost everything they own. Many with no homes at all.
So once the storm happened, I made a post about just some of the destruction. One of my friends from high school actually reached out and he said, I want to help you.
Little did Ty Dennis know that old friend would donate $10,000 to his nonprofit, Clippers and Cops, to pour into recovery.
My mouth dropped.
They got to work delivering $250 to 40 families. No questions asked.
We kind of just randomly chose people. Like for instance, there was a home that was on Euclid that I knew that was just missing a whole top floor. I mean, there was one situation, a couple, where we just jumped out on people that were walking.
Now that momentum is gaining traction all over. 5 on Your Side has learned the big resource giveaway at the Urban League that happens on Saturdays will now be extended, at least through the end of the month. And community groups are ramping up their efforts to put goodwill into action.
We had supplies that's been donated from Walmart, IKEA, and all around, and we want to make sure that we bring the products to the people.
Now is when we get really into the thick of what this storm really did and what it's going to carry us for years to come. This won't be an overnight fix.
It's just about showing love to each other.
And here at Chaffetz Arena, a disaster assistance center where people are coming to get help and resources like applying for FEMA. The center will reopen on Monday, and FEMA will also go into the community, meeting people where they are. We're live in Midtown tonight. Brent Solomon, 5 on Your Side.
For more information on that federal assistance, text the word FEMA to 314-425-5355 and we'll send you a link. Tonight, storm victims and community members voiced their opinions on the city's plan to use RAM settlement money to help with tornado relief.
There should be a detailed assessment of the damage that was done, neighborhood by neighborhood, before you start spending a penny of money.
Last week, the Board of Aldermen introduced a bill to use $30 million to provide aid after the May 16th tornado. They're expected to discuss the bill again at tomorrow's meeting. A federal judge has issued a temporary restraining order requiring President Donald Trump to return control of the National Guard to California. The judge ruled the deployment was illegal, violating the 10th Amendment and exceeding the president's authority. But the judge paused his order until noon on Friday, giving the administration a quick window to try to fast-track an emergency appeal. No comment yet from the White House. Today, Governor Mike Keogh activated the Missouri National Guard. He calls it a precautionary measure ahead of planned protests throughout the state this weekend. Keogh says, quote, while other states may wait for chaos to ensue, the state of Missouri is taking a proactive approach in the event that assistance is needed to support local law enforcement in protecting our citizens and communities. The St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department says it's aware of planned protests in the city this weekend. In a statement, the department says the safety of everyone is their top priority and that they, quote, fully support the right to peacefully protest and are committed to ensuring individuals can exercise their First Amendment rights safely. Tonight, a major escalation in the Middle East. Explosions lit up Iran's capital after an Israeli strike targeting what it calls a direct threat to its survival. Israel confirms it struck nuclear and military sites near Tehran in what it's calling Operation Rising Lion. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu posting on X, this operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. It follows Iran's defiance of UN nuclear oversight and a vow to expand uranium enrichment. The U.S. says it was not involved, but warns Iran not to retaliate against American interests. Tonight, several suspects are now charged in a string of car break-ins, one of those crimes caught on camera. Prosecutors say the crimes occurred in Eureka, Webster Groves, and South City. And new tonight, 5 on Your Side's Robert Townsend spoke with one of the victims.
Prosecutors charged Darius Bostic and his brother Derek Bostic with a series of car break-ins that spanned across St. Louis County.
It was really disturbing.
Jackie Larson shared this video with police. She says shortly before 3 on the morning of April 30th, her Ring doorbell camera caught a teenager breaking into her Ford F-150. Police believe that teen and the Bostics broke into more than a half dozen vehicles on Forest Run Drive in Eureka.
It was parked up towards the garage and they smashed in the passenger side of the window.
Larson says when her motion detectors came on, her camera captured the mask-wearing teen pointing an AR-15 style pistol with an extended magazine at her living room window.
We have a little one at home and it was terrifying.
According to court documents, the suspects caused hundreds of dollars worth of damage to vehicles and stole more than $750 worth of items.
We have a Wildwood police officer that lives down the road, and I think they saw his vehicle and they kind of stopped and then they got out of here.
Police believe the same suspects broke into 17 vehicles here in the Webster Groves area. And listen to this. They tell us the crime spree wasn't over. Investigators say the next day on May 1st, the Bostic brothers and their teen accomplices were caught on camera again, breaking into cars on Vermont Avenue in South St. Louis. Police say a neighbor fired a warning shot, hoping to scare off the would-be thieves, but court documents reveal the suspects fired at the neighbor's home and accidentally shot their 16-year-old accomplice in his head. He died at a hospital.
It's devastating. They're just teens.
Teens and young adults now facing serious felony charges. Robert Townsend, 5 on Your Side.
Yeah, the Bostics are each charged with felony counts of property damage and stealing. Charges are pending against the juvenile suspect. Tonight, a vigil held to remember a 9-year-old boy who's been missing now for 22 years. Christian Ferguson's mother, Theda Wilson, was among those who gathered in Florissant tonight for a balloon release. They also remembered the 1,200 people still missing across Missouri. State Senator Angela Mosley also talked about the recent passage of a bill creating the Missing and Murdered African American Women and Girls Task Force.
Even though we only make up 19% of the population, 42% of the missing and murdered are African American women and girls. So that's why that bill is very important.
Christian's body has never been found. His father, DeJuan Ferguson, is now serving a life sentence for Christian's death. A steel deal.
We're here today to celebrate a blockbuster agreement.
But the international agreement is not ironclad for a Granite City plant.
Everything is revolved around steel, and hopefully we have a future with that.
Tonight, the concerns of an entire community.
Some of us may get drenched in a downpour tomorrow, but not everyone's getting the bigger rainfall totals. When the rain chances peak Friday, and why there's some good news for the weekend.
This 5 on Your Side newscast is brought to you by Together Credit Union, your hometown home loan provider. Visit togethercu.org to explore your home.
Tonight, the future of the U.S. Steel plant in Granite City is still uncertain, despite a new partnership deal between the American company and Japan's Nippon Steel. It has the support of President Trump. However, Granite City is not part of the current conversation. 5 on Your Side's Laura Barczewski sits down with the union and the mayor about the deal that could change Granite City and the region forever.
For years, U.S. Steel Granite City Works has been in limbo. It started with idling the first blast furnace in 2019, then idling the second blast furnace in October 2023.
We've just been running a real slow state through our finishing mills. We're relying on other facilities to get us slabs to make products.
Union President Craig McKee says right now only 750 steel workers are currently on the job. 60 of them only work every other week because there just isn't enough work. Another 350 who've been laid off are waiting to come back.
I think they're surviving. They found other work. Some are struggling.
In September 2022, U.S. Steel planned to sell the Granite City plant to their neighbor Suncoke Energy, but that never happened. Then Japan's Nippon Steel came into the picture, offering $15 billion to buy U.S. Steel, but that deal was blocked. Now Nippon plans to invest the same amount in the company instead.
The international union's position has been, and that is, they don't think this is a good deal for the U.S. steel industry in general, because Nippon in the past has a history of trade violations.
President Trump touted his support for the new deal to USW crews in Pennsylvania at the end of May.
We're here today to celebrate a blockbuster agreement that will ensure this storied American company stays an American company.
He made a very similar visit to Granite City in 2018. Mayor Mike Parkinson recalls it was a turning point for the plant.
And I remember what a great feeling it was to have the president here really working for the people of this area and these jobs in this area. And then today, here we are in his second term, and we hear him in Washington, D.C. talking about this deal and what it's going to do for the Mon Valley and what it's going to do for U.S. Steel in Pittsburgh. But not one mention of the city that he visited in 2018.
Since that visit, they've lost some of the very jobs they got back, leading to more challenges for local businesses and the city as a whole.
They're not stopping for gas. They're not stopping for a beer at the local pub. Those dollars are not being spent.
Congresswoman Nikki Budzinski says she's still fighting for Granite City.
I'm going to continue to advocate, and I will not be supporting this acquisition by this administration unless I see investment and a commitment to Granite City.
Right now, there are 3 options, including shutting down the plant for good.
We're not going to know our future until that deal gets behind us, whether it's with Suncoke and that version of it, or they're going to use us to make steel in some form or fashion.
The mayor of Granite City says if business leaders decide to close the steel plant, they're concerned about what happens to 1,500 acres of buildings filled with toxins and environmental hazards that sit right next to Horseshoe Lake.
Are we going to let it become the next Rust Belt? Is that what the EPA is going to let happen here, or are promises going to be kept that we're going to make them clean this place up? It's not fair to the taxpayers that they be left holding the bag 10, 20, 30 years from now when this is a Superfund site.
Parkinson says this is a regional issue.
If you're living in this area and you have any reliance whatsoever on the steelmaking industry or the railroad or jobs that stem from those things, then you should be concerned too.
This plant created the steel beams that hold up this very city and many others. Union Vice President Terry Biggs says it also supports the city's people.
We've been making steel for 147 years. So, I mean, this town is made of steel, you know, so everything that a lot of the businesses and everything is revolved around steel, and hopefully we have a future with that in it still.
Reporting in Granite City, Laura Barczewski, 5 on your side.
Local union leaders say President Trump has until June 18th to make a decision to finalize this deal with Nippon Steel. If an agreement can't be reached, Nippon could end up owing U.S. Steel a breakup fee of more than $560 million. Just a couple of hours ago, the first ever all-woman St. Louis honor flight returned to St. Louis Lambert International Airport. The trip fell on Women Veterans Day. 35 local women who served in the Korean, Vietnam, and Iraq wars spent the day visiting the war memorials in our nation's capital. Our Kelly Jackson traveled with them. You can look for her report next week. Chief Meteorologist Scott Cottle rejoins us now with the weather impact forecast, and he's talking about rain this weekend.
We're talking about rain this weekend, but it is not anywhere close to a washout for us over the weekend. Now, tomorrow at times it'll seem like it. Right now, things are pretty quiet in Arnold. We do have a few sprinkles and spritzes around the metro area. We still haven't measured rain officially today at Lambert, but this is the larger area down to our south that's lifting to the north. We'll get into some of this as the overnight hours progress. But you see what's come at us through the evening hours? It's tended to fizzle quite a bit as it's moved in and across the St. Louis area, leaving us with just a few sprinkles, and that's been about it. Now, it's more than that as you go farther south, but this area continues to weaken as it's pushing into Iron, Reynolds County, and in across Madison County, Missouri. It's coming up right over SBRF Scout Ranch right now. Of course it is. And it's headed towards Farmington. You'll be seeing it, and it'll slide up towards St. Genevieve as well. But getting some downpours, some rumbles, but no severe weather out of this, and the trend is for it to weaken. Lambert having a bit of rain right now, so a trace, but nothing measurable today. We're still at 75. Why might we have downpours with this being our big threat? Your dew point 66 right now, and that humidity is here to stay. Temperatures tomorrow will only climb back to around 80. We know we're going to have rain out the door tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, it's much more scattered, and we think during the afternoon there'll be a few downpours as well. Here we are during the morning rush hour. What's coming in now fades a bit. What comes our way tomorrow morning as it moves over us, it tends to fade a bit. Then we may see a little bit of an increase in those spot showers and storms. Some of them may have some downpours tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening, but the overall flavor is shifting this energy east of St. Louis this weekend, which means most of the rain on Saturday will be along and east of the Mississippi River. Not all, but most of it. So higher rain chances east of St. Louis, lower west of St. Louis, and we've dropped the rain chances on Father's Day and on Sunday down to 20%, and it's partly cloudy, which means our temperatures will be warmer, climbing back into the upper 80s. Sunday might be our first 90-degree day so far this year. We're only around 80 tomorrow. We can guarantee you we won't be that warm tomorrow. Downpour is going to be the biggest threat with this as we see some rain in the morning and then more scattered variety during the afternoon, early evening hours. Saturday, the bulk of it will be off to the east of St. Louis, and even there, it's not an all-day rain. Chances in St. Louis Metro around 40%, 20% on Sunday. So most of Father's Day is looking pretty good, but it starts getting toasty and it stays muggy. By the middle of next week, we're around 90, and there will be thunderstorm chances pretty much every afternoon next week, along with heat index values most likely in the mid-90s.
Sounds like a St. Louis summer.
It does. We haven't had much of that.
No, we haven't. Scott, thanks. Corey is in with sports.
Well, the Cardinals aim to stop a slide. The U.S. Open created some brutal moments for the best in the world. We play hit and run with the new man in charge for City SC. Sports is up after the break.
And tonight marks 6 years since the Blues Stanley Cup victory. And right after this newscast, you can watch our coverage from that night on the 5+ streaming app. You can watch for free through your Roku, Apple, or Fire TV device.
Now, I don't want to make it more than it is, but this feels like a pretty big weekend for the Cardinals. They lost 4 in a row and head on the road for a 4-game series against a division rival right behind them in the standings. They could use a good weekend in Milwaukee. Big debut for the Brewers on the hill tonight, flame-throwing rookie Jacob Misiorowski, and he was sensational. He gets his first career strikeout on Wilson Contreras and goes 5 shutout innings. Sonny Gray looked to match him for a bit. 1-0 Brewers in the 4th. But in the 5th, things went off the rails. Sal Frelick deposits that ball on the left. The Brewers come marching home 2-2. It's 4-0 Milwaukee. Still in the 5th, the talented youngster Jackson Chourio tees off on Sonny. That is gone dead center. That made it 6-0 Brewers. The Cardinals did not get a hit until the 7th inning. The Brewers shut them out 6-0, and the Cardinals have now lost 5 in a row.
The first 4 looked really good and then ran into trouble. They took some really good swings. Their approach was really good, and they were able to string it together. So, and then the homer kind of topped it off. But no, I felt like he was rolling pretty good. We needed him to continue to go and allowed him to kind of get out of the jam. But unfortunately, they continue to take some really good swings.
Stanley Cup Finals, Panthers looking to go up 3-1, and they were up in this game 3-0 for a while, but Edmonton stormed back to tie the game. About 6 minutes left in the 3rd. Former Blue Jake Wallman on an assist from former Blue Kasperi Kapanen. Edmonton goes up, but hold on. 20 seconds left, and Sam Reinhart's going to tie the game for Florida. We are currently in overtime, tied 4-4. What a series.
This 5 on Your Side St. Louis City SC coverage is sponsored by Together Credit Union.
City SC is 1-1 since David Critchley took over as head coach. There's a long way to go if this club wants to dream about the playoffs, but the new man in charge has certainly shifted the mood around the club. I played a game of rapid-fire hit and run with the new voice on the sideline for City SC. Soccer hero growing up?
Steven Gerrard.
Why?
Born and raised probably half a mile from my house, so I got to see him in his early days, and as an academy player I got to see him develop through the club. And again, he was the captain and an inspirational leader on the field, so that one's a no-brainer.
One player on this City SC roster to defend your family?
Kessler. I feel like he's going to run through a brick wall every now and then.
You've been here in St. Louis a while. Favorite place to go out to eat?
Louis on Demont. Great chicken. If you haven't had it, I recommend it.
Favorite sport to watch other than soccer?
My girlfriend, she loves the NFL team, Kansas Chiefs. They've been super successful the last couple of years, so I'll go ahead and go with the NFL, and I'll give a shout out to the Kansas Chiefs.
If you could be one athlete for a day, who would you be?
I would go ahead and say LeBron James.
That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah. You know, the only reason is I'm so small. It would be nice to talk to a lot of people and look down on people for once. Not in a bad way, just with a height-wise.
All right, I've never gotten to interview somebody from Liverpool before. John, Paul, George, or Ringo?
John.
John, why?
I honestly, obviously it's hard to not say either one of them. I just feel like he was my dad's favourite, and I'll go ahead and support that answer with that.
And finally, however long this lasts, what do you hope people take away from the City SC team that's playing for you? What do you hope people remember about how your team plays?
Just overall, we have a team that's got strong mentality, that goes out with a never say die attitude, competes and fights for every single moment, but also can create a lot of control in games as well.
One thing is certain at the U.S. Open at Oakmont, it is playing incredibly tough. Look at some of these shots from round 1 today. These are the best golfers in the world, and they look like me and Mike on the course. Here's my favorite coming up from today. Tony Finau going to bounce a ball off the fringe, and it's going to go not where you think it's going to go. It's going to go into the stands. About gives this guy a heart attack in the first row. Then he remembers, no, you're not supposed to touch that. JJ Spawn is the leader at 4 under after a round. You know that duff on that chip from DeChambeau? I do that at least like 6 times every round.
Here's how you know that course is tough. Scotty Scheffler, who hits the ball straight every time, is like, what, 3 over par?
He looked more frustrated than I've seen him in years
Yes, he looked like, you know, a regular old PGA Tour professional.
It's nice to see him look like that every once in a while.
Yeah, he's been so good. We'll see what happens over the weekend. Well, they're revving up for a big weekend at Worldwide Technology Raceway, the fan events tomorrow that are fast and free. The Bommarito 500 at Worldwide Technology Raceway is set for Sunday, but the festivities actually kick off tomorrow night with Free Friday. Fans can take a guided walk of the 1.25-mile asphalt oval and get an up-close look at the Indy cars in the Gateway Garage. The night wraps up with a campground concert featuring the popular local band Hookie. Scott has a final check of the weather impact forecast, and there could be some rain tomorrow for those folks.
There will be some rain at times tomorrow, but it's not a complete washout. You see we have an area coming up at us from the south right now, moving almost up Highway 67, up 55. It's going to move into St. Louis here in a couple of hours, but it will weaken considerably by the time it gets here. And any thunder you hear overnight, not associated with severe weather, just some downpours. And that's what we'll see off and on. Probably first thing in the morning we'll have a bit of a break towards lunchtime, and then during the afternoon tomorrow we'll flare up a few more downpours on a scattered basis. Saturday, a lot of dry time. Sunday, it's mostly dry time. A very low chance for rain. Think they're going to get this race in without any big problems weather-wise.
That is good news.
That was a concern.
Yeah, I know. Well, there you have it. 5 on your side at 10. We're always streaming on 5+. Don't forget to start your day with Today in St. Louis. That begins at 4 a.m. Have a great and safe tomorrow.